They're gonna go live. Okay, we're good.
All right, welcome back to the Nexus podcast. I'm here with Dan Berte, the director of IoT security at Bitdefender. Good to see you.
Hi, Mike. How's it going?
Good. We're going to talk about some research that Dan and his team have been working on, looking at the security of leading manufacturers of solar equipment, some vulnerabilities that are putting all this infrastructure at risk. But welcome to RSA. Here we are again.
Yeah, it's crazy.
How's the show going for you?
It's fantastic. It's good to see so many people.
It is. That's the best part of this.
Yeah, everybody's in town. So
yeah,
and I'm local, so this is even better.
Even better for you. You get to go home, sleep in your bed.
That's true.
So I know you guys do a lot of IoT cybersecurity research, et cetera. Let's just start kind of like, what are some of the frustrations they're dealing with some of the vendors in terms of disclosures and so forth? That whole ecosystem is still kind of, I don't know if fragmented is the right word, but it's there's some complexity there in terms of like dealing with that.
Yeah, and I love the question because, and it's right on our alley because over the decade that we've been doing, a little more than 10 years that we've been doing this, finding vulnerabilities has never been an issue. That's always easy.
Right.
Patching is not even that complex, other than having to deploy to millions of devices or whatever the complexities of the vendors and dependencies they might have on different platforms. But the largest, the biggest, the most unsufferable issue that we've been having is the fact that vendors don't have a process that we can contact them quickly.
Yeah.
So basically, just kickstart the process of vulnerability disclosure and patching is painful. So we have some numbers. I don't have them with me, but some crazy numbers. A lot of vendors reply very late to our contact. Some never reply, and when we're talking about devices that have an average life cycle of maybe 3 years, it's kind of painful because who knows at what point in the process we found a vulnerability. And if they take a year to patch, it may be well past their life.
It's a lot of exposure.
Yeah, and you're put behind in a situation where you don't want to put out a 0 day, and you have to wait. What's the best way to handle it? So if I could have like a little magic wand and change the industry in some way, because obviously, to your point, other parts of the industry are well regulated and formalized. If I could change the IT space, and be like, okay, guys, just have a contact on your website, BGP key on it, whatever, a form, have somebody that listens to that email, like checks it every day, and is always responsive, and that will fix 80% of the problems that we're seeing in the IT space.
That's security at email address. Or
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. And are we past kind of that point where some of these devices just don't have a form factor that supports encryption or updates or whatever?
No, I think what we're seeing is obviously very advanced devices, especially with computing power just quadrupling every quarter or so. So every new device benefits from the improvements in hardware, which in turn benefits the application layer. It's just, we're talking about, the Windows platform, everything is well laid out. We know who the players are. We know what's going on. But here, it could be a stack of OEMs over OEMs over OEMs that, integrate this platform or another. And then at some point, it's just kind of, dependencies are crazy. We've ran into situations where hundreds of millions of devices from reputable vendors were impacted via this one key provider that was doing some sort of whatever the cloud provider there was or whatever. So yes, chances are that development would be improved, and it is. I'm not going to play the saying that it's not, but it's unfortunately still some sort of a wild west. But now that we're seeing new initiatives such as the U.S. Cyber Trust Mark and the like, we finally have some focus on the space, and it seems like some sort of regulation, while timid at first right now, is going to build a foundation that we're going to have the same sort of logic and structure in the future. Hopefully soon.
We've seen some of these initiatives where they're trying to build out a component list so that, especially on the consumer side, so what kind of data is being shared, or if there's any issues in that respect.
Yeah, and then exactly how do you know? And as a consumer, as a customer, and even more so now, why we normally would make the distinction between consumer enterprise and infrastructure. I don't know that we're seeing much of that any longer. In fact, as we're progressing, a lot of the stuff just transgresses and are potentially, our point of contention today, the PVs, the photovoltaics. That's that's one of those examples where something that to our researcher looks like a baby monitor or a smart plug is now infrastructure.
Right.
So, and anything that permeates the enterprise. So
It's a way in.
now it's kind of agnostic. So I wouldn't even. I know we have our own categorization, internal, naming, and you birth X IoT. Because we needed definitions, we needed structure so we can understand the space. Even I wrote a paper on defining the IoT because there was no accepted definition. How can we define something that?
Sure.
How can we secure something we can't define? So we've built all the structure around so we can get some understanding of how to group and patch and fix. But I think we're getting to a point where it doesn't even matter. It seems, that's the advantage of IoT, that you can use pre-built bricks into a larger scheme. And now it's repeating.
Yeah.
So now we have some sort of, symbiosis and understanding what's going on and what makes an IoT device so we can actually control a little bit what goes in there. Because it was literally the Wild Wild West for the last 10 years.
Of course. All right, so let's dig into